Okay, let's begin. Let's begin with the first presentation. First presentation by Professor Rudolf Tippelt. He is currently a professor in the University of Munich, which is one of the leading universities in Germany as well as in the world. And he's a specialist in the area of general education as research, educational research. He is also a member of the steering committee for education research in the German government. Also the president of the German Society for Education. He is going to talk about the building partnership between education, educational industrial field, dual structure, and strong cooperation. Please welcome Professor Tippelt.
Dear Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the introduction. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I think an important objective of educational systems in knowledge societies is to provide young people with a high level of employability and excellent professional action competency. This professional competency has different components: technical and professional, methodological, social, but also personal, cultural, and of course, and that is one of my hypotheses of this input, action competency. In this context, education can be seen as the reception, the development, the integration of experience and knowledge in all phases of life, from early childhood to old age. The formative powers of education must therefore be continually evaluated in early education, in schools, in vocational training and adult education, as well, of course, as in universities. Several challenges which present themselves at all levels can, however, be determined, such as professional qualification and the development of competencies, but also social integration, as well as cultural reproduction, cultural innovation. To begin with, it must be considered that the process of change amongst educational institutions, and especially the worldwide expansion trends in higher education and in education, can by all means be viewed as functional for the employment system when seen from the perspective of qualifications. In the broad fields of employment within the advancing knowledge, industrial and service societies, task demands which require flexible knowledge application and independent knowledge production are becoming increasingly common. Qualifications and competencies such as analytical, abstract and systematical thinking, as well as the ability to creatively solve problems and make independent decisions, individual decisions in new, less standardized situations, and the ability to cooperate in teams in organization based on the division of labor are becoming continually important. At the same time, unskilled and semi-skilled activities, which had been previously widely promoted by the Taylor's task breakdown, are continually decreasing. However, higher standards and demands of qualification in many areas of the employment system should not shift the focus from troubles in the coordination of educational and occupational systems. The occupational employment structures sometimes change more slowly than the increasing number of highly qualified persons in educational systems, would require. But in other segments, there is a shortage of qualified manpower at the same time. Incongruences between the educational and occupational systems mostly affect the less qualified entry-level employees. Therefore, the largest occupational and unemployment problems amongst the less qualified arise during the transition between education and occupation. The management of this difficult transitional process could be considerably improved by a complex process of cooperation which stretches across different levels of regulation between education and occupation, learning and working, and the topic of our group here, educational and industrial fields. The considerations regarding a transition management which not only recognizes the cooperation between education and occupation, but also makes this cooperation constitutive, can be traced back to the very traditional progressive educational ideas of John Dewey in New York and Chicago, or Georg Kerschensteiner in Munich, at the beginning of the last century, of the 20th century. In the following, I will be addressing 4 levels of cooperation between education and occupation, I would say from a modern perspective, the macro, the meso, the micro, and the exo level. Some words to the macro level. Dual structures, and you know we have in Germany the dual system, especially in vocational training. Dual structures of learning are helpful as it means that industrial and private institutions collaborate with educational institutions systematically. Within the system of dual structures, current areas of interest which must be considered and improved include curricular constructions, professionalism in teaching, and a coordinated knowledge management system. In addition to these areas, activity analysis and identification of qualification demands must also be developed. One of the present challenges of partnerships and interlinkages between the educational system and the labor force is the transfer and the cooperative development of relevant knowledge for practice and the continuous improvement of chances for students in their transition from education to work. Especially important are also new concepts of scientific education and further training between universities and enterprises. I come back to this point. But some remarks now to the meso level, the dual structures within the education industrial fields. Companies train apprentices and also students to ensure that their future employees have the required skills and qualifications. In this regard, the company's training methods can be defined from 2 perspectives. Firstly, the training methods should be seen as tools that enable occupation-related knowledge and skills to be passed on as efficiently as possible, and secondly, they should ensure that apprentices and students learn about the way that a company's work is structured. Companies should demand that their employees have not only technical, but also methodological, social, and cultural skills. An innovative company should therefore not limit its training programs to the development of technical skills, but an important tool for this combination is curricular design and curricular development. All curricular planning should implicitly take account of and analyze variables such as production processes and procedures, product ranges, technical changes affecting the tools of the trade, as well, and that is very important, as workplace organization when determining the required occupational profile for each work position. The objective of curricular development is to provide trainings with a, let's say, long-term validity, which are applied on a national level and define the minimum skills, qualifications, requirements or standards for each of the recognized occupation. Each firm can go over this minimum skill qualification requirements. One of the most important instruments for defining training content is support received in the form of consultation, especially from groups of recognized experts. In general, these are usually formed from representatives of business associations, but also of trade unions. In Germany, we have even a consensus principle. They have to agree about the main targets in an occupation, often also including members of relevant professions, teachers, specialized occupational pedagogues, and engineers. Their input is of extreme importance. This group of experts should not limit itself to defining or clarifying changes that have already taken place, but apply its collective expertise and experience to the prediction of future changes. The future-oriented, anticipative nature of a curriculum is very, very important. I just mentioned here that DACUM developed a curriculum model by Norton, created the different techniques of task and activity analysis, or the very common duty lists to define the demand, and that is very important, the demand of education and training. We need a clear analysis of demand. I make a short example, trends in participation in academic continuing education. Compared to other educational groups, university graduates show a considerably stronger participation in general as well as in career continuing education. However, university graduates tend to prefer only a small range of programs. More exact trends on the behavior of university graduates as potential participants of university continuing education and what they expect from their continuing education can be found in the results of two empirical studies we proceeded in Munich dealing with the continuing education behavior and interest of the population of this big city, Munich, and also the representative study social and regional differentiation of continuing education behavior and interest in Eastern and Western Germany. In both the German and the Munich representative studies, university graduates were compared to other educational groups. Current learning activities of university graduates, whether full or also part-time, demand a wide range of skills, as you see it here on the folio. And this is significantly different from other educational groups. The many aspects of these challenges show that university continuing education programs can, and I think should, have a much stronger position as they have at the moment. What we see here, the logical organization, the structure of information, rhetoric, knowledge management, the ability to communicate electronically on the internet, but excellent, not only doing it, but excellent. Leadership competence, problem-solving techniques, conflict management, cooperation in interdisciplinary and very important intergenerative teams. Older workers and younger workers are working together, and that needs a certain competence. And the development of personality. These are all skills, or let's say also targets, which significantly the academics want much more and much more intensive than the other occupational groups. It should be underlined that university continuing education takes into consideration the expectations of their institutional partners, especially those from business and administration. So academic continuing education is not just practice at universities, but also in other institutions cooperating closely with universities. Particularly cooperation between universities, and that is really good practice. Joint ventures with companies and other organizations is becoming increasingly important. Without these joint ventures, we have not much success in continuing academic education. Some words to the micro level, the situated and problem-based learning and project-oriented discovery learning. Based on the constructivist educational philosophy and the realization that acquired knowledge free of practical skills leads to nothing, leads to lethargic knowledge with no further relevance for the actions of the learner. The demand for stronger connections between knowledge procurement and practical application has become increasingly stronger in the past years, also in the universities, especially in the BA and the MA programs we have now in Europe. The approach of problem-based learning is popularly discussed and also serves as a common ground of different teaching strategies. In vocational training, but also in academic programs, the project method is linked to competence-based training. Technical, methodological, social, personal and cultural competence is possible to train in this project method-oriented programs. Different strategies and methods have potential for competency development. In the tradition of John Dewey and Georg Kerschensteiner, the project method and inquiry learning foster independent learning and authentic problem solving, which we really need today, also for the advantage of our own students. Typical for the project learning is self-organized information gathering, planning, decision-making, implementing, self-oriented controlling, but then evaluating from the teacher or the trainer. Whereas for inquiry processes, the generation of hypothesis, experimenting, authenticity of data, sense-making, and argumentation are typical. The strong cooperation between educational institutions, I mean here schools and universities, with enterprises and companies, serves for the acquisition of transferable knowledge and provides participation in communities of practice. Maybe just one word to something specific, the learning islands. We have in Germany, especially in the bigger firms like Mercedes-Benz, where it is completely common, learning islands. What is that? The integration of learning with a real working environment is given in learning islands. Learning islands form part of a real working environment, but are still very new and atypical concepts, nevertheless practiced in some bigger firms. They are often included in new working processes that are still at the experimental stage. Learning islands can be used to test new work organization schemes and to apply these to real situations. Within a learning island framework, work and training are carried out in teams made up of apprentices or students from different fields and occupation. Again, the most experienced firm in this field and in this method is Mercedes-Benz in Stuttgart in Germany, for example. Learning islands combine the advantages of workplace training, that means productive activity, but also motivation through the carrying out of real work, with those offered by learning workshop training, training by means of qualified personnel, focused towards qualifications that will be relevant in the future and the elimination of unrelated activities or tasks. Let me come to a first summary. In the past, occupational professional competence tended to be focused solely on technical areas directly linked to a specific area of or theme or topic. Professional action competence in today's labor market calls for not only increased knowledge but also the development of methodological, social, personal and of course technical competence. And it is here in the area of conveying interdisciplinary competences that the project method, but also fall-based learning, learning islands, and general discovering and inquiring learning have an increasing relevance. Not only with respect to in-company training schemes, but also for schools, vocational training centers, and of course for academic education. The project methods can be a very efficient learning situation, creating tool, replacing traditional magisterial or expository explanation and learning situations. Learning islands, on the other hand, are in-company learning strategies. Learning islands imply a clear rejection of learning models based simple on simulation. Learning islands contemplate solely the carrying out of real tasks relevant to the company's operations. Learning islands signify a permanent sharing of knowledge between group members, so it fosters teamwork very much with the learners. I come now to my last point, the extra level, that means the networks between enterprises and educational institutions in what we in Europe call the learning regions. Partnerships between educational and industrial fields are one of the major aims of the learning regions, as educational institutions, schools, vocational training centers, universities, and companies as well as small-sized enterprises are systematically interlinked. Cooperation and networking are necessary. The responsible representatives within a certain region establish a network which allows for win-win situations for all the involved institutions. In order to reach these promising and synergetic solutions, the evaluation of the learning regions, and we evaluated 80 learning regions in Germany over 6 years, was able to identify some central success factors. And I just mentioned this. We have to start with the analysis of regional demands. We come to regional common visions between the different institutions. The combination and concentration of regional resources, secondly, is very, very important. The development of social cohesion, exchange of experience, creating confidence, trust, is very important in these learning regions. The strong commitment of the community ensures sustainability. Network construction, openness towards new partners, that is important. Over the while, new partners are maybe interesting to follow the learning regions, they have to be integrated. Leadership competence, develop these partnerships. General, I would like to say, educational and industrial partnerships for problem solving in a region, foster higher education, diminish unemployment, and also find good solution to integrate migrants. So I come to my last summary. In the midst of the very visible transition from an industrial society to a global knowledge society, the expansion of competency and the learning of new foundational knowledge continue to be encouraged for two reasons: to keep up with the standards of companies and organizations, and also to effectively support individuals in the self-organized construction of their knowledge and their competence. Ultimately, this involves a re-evaluation of intellectual capital for every individual and a holistic mode of education. Cognitive, social, motivational, moral aspects are involved. But the transition to knowledge society involves also the important task to be able to successfully live up to the demands of cooperation of educational and industrial fields. Trust and confidence are absolutely keywords, as it moves between market, political, and, very important, educational responsibility. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, let me introduce the next speaker. Next speaker is Mr. Ibrahim Jamer, a Director of Business Development, Dubai Knowledge Village. He's also a member of TCOM Investment. He has a bachelor degree in Business Administration from Eastern Washington University and master's in HRM from the Queensland in Australia. Please welcome Mr. Jamer. By the way, the topic of his presentation is catering to the educational needs of private sector industries in Dubai and the region. Thank you.
Thank you for this lovely introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and your interest in listening to us. I will share with you a practical experience of us in Dubai, in particular Dubai government, in bridging the gap between private sector and education, private sector industries, I should say. Dubai in the late 1990s experienced a rapid growth in several trades and industries, and many of those industrial areas boom up in the free zones. We got several free zones just established in the late 1990s, and among them was TCOM, Dubai Technology and Media Free Zone. By that time, there was a couple of the brands that were already established, which is Dubai Internet City and Dubai Media City. These companies that were based in this area, in TCOM and in the free zone, they needed a lot of companies, human resource management institutes, to provide them with the training and human resource development services. But the local market wasn't able to cope to that need. And this opportunity came to the Dubai government to find a way to bridge the gap between the two. Before I go that far, I will just give you a brief introduction about Dubai, or overview about Dubai for those who might have not heard of Dubai or haven't been there yet. Dubai, as you see from the location, is centrally located in the Middle East, among the three major continents. Dubai has a population of, by now, this is 1.6 was last year actually, with a growth of 10%. I think we have around more than 1.8 million people living in the country. City life is very cosmopolitan. We have different nationalities, more than 200 nationalities, multicultural city. Leisure life is, we have hotels different. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Burj Al Arab, and now we have Atlantis. And Dubai's population demography is we have more than 93% expatriates living in Dubai. I think that's a unique situation in any country in the world. You wouldn't find any other country like that, or a city, 93%, and we have more than 120 languages spoken in Dubai. Dubai's GDP is not from the oil, as you might have heard by now. I think several people have said that. Our GDP is mainly from trade and tourism. The oil contribution to the GDP was only 3% in 2007. Dubai is a travel hub because of its location, centrally located, as I said. More than 35 million people or passengers went through Dubai last year. Dynamic economy, more than 198 billion was in last year, dollar that was, growth of 16%, one of the highest in the world, you could say. It's a business hub. More than 200 the Fortune 500 companies are based in Dubai by now. This one is just some information about Dubai with the GDP per capita of $55,000 per year. The knowledge village concept, as I said earlier, came because of the need of the market. And at that time also, what happened, the September 11 incident, which limited a lot of people, a lot of students and kids from the area of Middle East to go and do their studies abroad and to US or Australia or other countries. And this made it also an opportunity for Dubai to capture and develop on that idea. So before they go ahead and do the real implementation, they commissioned AC Nelson Group to do a survey of more than 16 countries, starting from China to South Africa, Russia even, asking certain questions, how this concept of building Dubai Knowledge Village would be perceived and how it will be welcomed by the people in these areas. Because the idea wasn't just to cater to the need of Dubai and United Arab Emirates, which are very small country. The whole country has a population of 5.4, 5.5 million by now. But the whole region of Middle East, MENA, and also the subcontinent, India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. That was the target of the study. So there were several questions asked. And some of these questions were, if there is a felt need to have a better education. I think that question was a little bit maybe too naive, which is, the answer was everywhere there is a need for a better education. As we have heard and witnessed here, several different speakers have said that we need a better education system. Are students going abroad? Definitely yes. From all of these 16 countries that were surveyed, all of them said yes, students are going abroad and for better education. Why are they going abroad? And where? Well, they are going at that time, and it still remains for a big part, Western world, as USA, Australia, and Canada, all those, unfortunately up till now, the countries that speak English. I'm sure there are very good universities and education institutes in Korea and in Japan and in Germany and other countries, but I think the language barrier is still there. Why are they going? Better education, better universities. But the main reason I think people were going, or students were going to these countries, were education, high quality education, that they have universities, good brands that they have, like Harvard, Oxford, or these names, which are always, they market themselves. Market, mix of public-private education, dissatisfaction with the current providers, being public schools, universities, or private universities. Both did not meet the people's requirements and aspiration. How did you hear about these? The other question, how did you hear about these universities? Word of mouth, and whether the Dubai would be good, to become a educational hub. Word of mouth will need a lot of support. We have to do a lot of marketing and all that stuff. Past record, place. So all these questions. How is Dubai perceived as an educational center? Not known in the whole, in that region by those universities, at least, by these countries. Dubai had a perception by this time of being a city of leisure and hotels. This kind of idea people were accompanying Dubai. How is Knowledge Village perceived? Very strong concept. The concept is great, but whether it would be possible to do it, implement it, that's a different thing. That was the people's idea. Do Dubai and knowledge synergize? Currently, as doing on the paper, they say yeah, but whether it would be possible to implement it, that's a different thing. And then getting all this information and knowing about the Dubai leaders that we have, Sheikh Mohammed and other leaders that we have in Dubai and the country, they made up their mind and commissioned certain local leaders to go ahead with it. And then Dubai Knowledge Village was launched in 2003 to put Dubai on the map as the international destination for learning and human resource management in the region. So it's not just Dubai only, but the whole region of MENA. The thriving knowledge economy was founded as part of long-term strategy of Dubai government to put Dubai and UAE as a knowledge-based economy. Okay, how to attract people, how to make people or business people, professionals in human resource management or educational and academic fields to come and be based in Dubai. In Dubai or UAE, as some of you might know, if you open a company outside of the free zones, you have to have a partner, a local partner with 51%, and a foreigner could have the rest of 49%. And what we wanted to target people who will not fear that they will go in a venture and might lose with someone else. So they have their own 100% ownership of what they want to do. So in the free zone, as being part of the free zone in Dubai, you have 100% foreign ownership of the company that you establish. No corporate taxes, no income taxes, and no restriction on capital trade or repatriation of your own funds. Whatever you make, you take wherever you want. And to support that, one-stop shop, easy, one-stop facilitation by the government, all what a new business needs to be supported and to be operated. Hassle-free company registration, hassle-free company laws and legal framework, flexible labor laws. You could get a visa approved in 24 hours for certain countries, actually now for most of the Western countries and developed countries. Quick access to knowledge workers. We are in an area of more than 2 billion. If you cover all the Middle East and China and even India and Pakistan. So a lot of talented people available. Labor market was really in both. You could have talented people or you have the skilled labor. So all that, I think, made it more appealing to the people to set up in Dubai Knowledge Village. So by 2007, Dubai Knowledge Village, the academic part, universities, and the human resource management institutes were all merged together. And by then, only 2007, we had more than 20 universities from different countries, including Canada, USA, Australia, India, Iran, all of these major countries, and around 300 human resource management institutes. Human resource management, all aspects of human resource management, we provide services to them. So in 2007, because of that large and growing need of universities for bigger space, we opted for having a new brand just dedicated to the universities, which we call Dubai International Academic City. And that one caters to the university's needs. And then we repositioned Dubai Knowledge Village to be just catering and dedicated to the needs of the human resource management institutes. By 2007, we had more than 400 different human resource management institutes, including human resource training and development, vocational training, linguistic centers, assessment centers, e-learning, you name it. What we do to support the education or the institutes to grow their business and do better service, provide better service to their clients, we provide them with different networking and event management services that supports their growth. We have a once in a year anniversary lunch, an SME for small and medium businesses that start up in Dubai Knowledge Village and they are not well connected to the market. We do this kind of networking events for them. And also we have a breakfast club, a quarterly held, which we bring the key speakers or key players in different industry with different theme and at different time, at different event, each time that we hold this event, and try to network them with the people or the institutes that we have in Dubai Knowledge Village, so they can, have more networking and working experience. And of course, Human Resource Forum that umbrellas all the human resource management for networking purposes also is available for our human resource management institutes and partners. As I mentioned earlier, TCOM Dubai Technology and Media Free Zone, as by now we have more than 2,500 was last year's projection or number. It now is I think 3,200 different companies based in that TCOM area with more than up to 30,000 knowledge workers based in the TCOM free zone, and also student numbers, international students, more than 12,000 international students and local students are studying in the Dubai International Academic City, and some of the universities that are still based and remain in Dubai Knowledge Village. And my final slide, just as a brief overview of Dubai Holding, which is umbrellas also TCOM and other companies such as Tatweer and Dubai Properties and Sama Dubai, with more than 19 companies working in 13 different industries. By this, I will conclude my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Jamer, and it's a very interesting and quite revolutionary idea of building up the new village, consists of the academic institute as well as Human Resources Development Institute. Thank you for the presentation. Okay, let me introduce the next speakers. Next speaker is Professor Pak Cho, endowed professor of the Dongguk University. And before coming to Korea for 20 years, he was a professor in Michigan Tech University. Professor Cho currently serves as the chair of the Educational Committee for the National Academy of Engineering Korea. Also, he is the vice president of the Korean Society Engineering Education. Cho received a bachelor degree mechanical engineering from the University of Wisconsin, also a PhD, master and PhD from the Northwestern University in mechanical engineering. Please welcome Professor Cho.
Good afternoon. This is the very last presentation for the entire forum, and I'm really thankful that you are stay with us this late. The session is about the strategy for successful university-industry cooperation. To talk about the success, I strongly recommend the visitors from abroad to visit this place. This place I recommend very strongly, not because this is a magnificent place, but this is a place that will inspire you for success. Because just when I was a young boy, this same place looked like this. Yeah, you're surprised, aren't you? And I'm not that old. So within half a century, this place became that. And how did that happen? I think the transformation took place because there was a successful strategy in the 60s to 80s. There was a national consensus to industrialize Korea through technology. And young people responded to that vision. So the best and the brightest flocked to engineering and sciences. But then something happened. Korea is being squeezed on two sides. With the arrival of the knowledge economy and the emergence of some of the new nations, Korea is being really squeezed very hard. On one side, we have US and European nations and Japan, and they're outcompeting Korea in terms of high tech. On the other side, we have China, India, and other emerging nations competing Korea for cheap labor. And what happened? The Korean economic engine is stalling. It's going south. At the same time, students are leaving engineering and science in droves. Well, something drastic happened. Actually, back then, the relationship between industry and universities are very simple. Industry was very grateful that they were getting college graduates. Because back then, only 1 in 10 attended universities. Which means the university acted well as a filter, filtering out poor and filtering out the best to go on to the college. But the situation is reversed. Isn't that right? Now, 1 in 10 high school graduates do not attend university. So it sucks as a filter. Anybody who can pay the tuition now can't get into the college. So industry people are saying no thanks to the graduates of college. And they're even asking for after service. As if students are products and the industry are customers. That's what's happening. But in all fairness, I must say that industry is not simply seeing and complaining about the graduates. They are also working very hard. In fact, they've been very responsible for suggesting some of the key skills needed in their graduates and recruits, and some of the skills that Professor Tippett mentioned earlier. So they've been very actively involved. They've been very professional about human resource development. But university was also working very hard. University was responding to industry requests. In Korea, for example, in engineering, we have a massive curriculum reform and hands-on creative activities were introduced. As the result, there was a high level of quality control, which, by the way, just last year was recognized by the international community of the highest quality. So things are happening good. But industry is still very unhappy, especially with the fact that they have to spending on the average $100,000 per new recruit over the year 2.5 years before the new recruits are placed on the job. A lot of waste of money and the waste of time as well. So it's not sustainable. This kind of relationship between industry and university is not sustainable. And it's not a matter of just more money is needed or more or better quality control is needed. It's not that. University and industry cannot be working separately anymore. Even if they work their butts off, if they work separately, then they cannot go anywhere. There are two big reasons for that. Very first reason is the nature of the workers needed has changed. Earlier on, Korea depended on cheap labor. We assembled parts. Then we started to assemble technology and produce goods to be sold worldwide. But that's not good enough for Korea. We need to be able to produce technology itself. And to achieve that, we need a different kind of workers. We need creative workers. That's one major change. But there's another change. The second change is that the learning has become a lifestyle. Back in the 60s when I was in Korea, look, the key word was industrialize, right? Then later on, things changed to internationalize, then globalize, right? And the information society has arrived. So every time a new president took office, we have a different keyword, right? Yeah, local is another one. But I think every one of them doesn't signify different sets of values. In fact, I actually divide the whole thing into two. The old one and the new one. And the new age is where lifelong learning is the major keyword. What does that mean? When I was a student here, we have to study our butts off till we drop dead. Lifelong learning means that we study till death, right? That's the difference. Therefore, learning is not simply an activity that you engage in schools through K through 12 and college, but lifelong. It's lifestyle now. It continues forever. So we need a different way of thinking about education. So we, in the year 2008, has a choice to make. We can continue as usual and be miserable, or we can change so that we can be happier. The thing is, we what needs to be changed. We in fact know the strategy for success for both universities and industry, because it has been talked about all the time everywhere. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was in Prague. We have a gathering of Kayets. Kayets, by the way, is made up of the academies of engineering and sciences in many different countries, including US, Britain, Korea, Japan, and so on. And we did a quick survey. How do you motivate students to acquire innovative skills? Innovation is the key word. And the conclusion for that survey was very, very simple. It said, hey, for a change, everybody agrees on this. And that is, the students cannot simply study books, that they have to be engaged in real problems in cooperation with industry. So university, industry, cooperation is the key. Well, Korea knew that too. In fact, just 2 years ago, there was a massive forum, as big as this forum, which talked about engineering education reform. There, the key was this. In fact, that's where the previous president joined the conference as well. And the key word was, hey, university and industry together reform engineering education. It's a teamwork, they said. That was the major core strategy for success. Okay? So Korea knew that. But 10 years ago, in the year 1996, Korea held the very first workshop on engineering education. And back then, we also proclaimed that the key strategy for success is the university-industry cooperation. But in the last 10 years, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what. Unless we think differently about the relationship between industry and university, I don't think too much progress can be made on this front. Actually, the moment you think that university produces graduates and industry is customer, then no progress will be made. Because I see a great divide between those two. There are two different kinds of divide. Namely, there's a temporal division. The university is the preparation time, and once you go to industry, that's where you practice what you have prepared. That's a temporal division. I don't think that's good. There's also spatial division. That in the university, you study theory, and the real-world problems will happen after you graduate. That's a spatial division. As long as there are those divides, I don't think no progress will be made. I think in the age of lifelong learning, in the age of information explosion, in the age where speed is the key, you've got to have relationship between preparation and practice, not in sequence, but it must be concurrent. It cannot be separated. They must be integrated. I think this much can be done. For example, industry should be involved in actual education as well. I think the university should be actively engaged in re-education as well. There are many different ways they can achieve that. In fact, in Korea, POSTECH, where the president Baek is from, actually is founded by a major industry. Songyungan University, where Professor Yu is from was Samsung recently actually took control of that foundation. So there are many examples of university, industry, corporation, but that's not enough. Because I think for the last 10 years in Korea anyways, and I've been to the United States and Europe, every time people mention university, industry, corporation, people say, yeah, we need it. It's very good. That's a winning strategy. They all say that. But I think the talk is cheap. So what we need is not more policy, but I think we need action. I think what we need is not you do it, but I will do it. I believe in leadership by example. So recently, the Educational Committee of National Academy of Engineering in Korea is preparing a call to all members of Academy to pledge a commitment to initiate a new university industry corporation project in the year 2009. I think we got to lead by example. Talking about we should do it, you should do it, I don't think works. Well, yesterday morning, Chairman Welch said, a true leader, that we need to see what's coming around the corner, right? I'd like to share with you my vision. I think I know what's around the corner. If we conduct education as usual, what we will see is a major truck heading our way. But it doesn't have to be that. I think we can choose what will come around the corner, what we will see around the corner. And I believe that very active university industry integration will help both organizations to achieve their main purpose. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the very provocative presentation, and thank you very much again. That will conclude the three presentations by experts in this field, and then now the presentation is open for discussion. We have two panelists present here. I'll introduce the first panelist. He's Professor Ji-Bum Yu. He's a director and professor of Sungkyunkwan University. He is a professor of the Advanced Material Science Engineering Department, also director of the Center of Innovative Engineering Education. And he is also senior research. He used to be a senior researcher at the ETRI, which is Electronic and Telecommunication Research Institute. And he has a BS and Master in Metallurgical Engineering from Seoul National University, PhD in Material Science Engineering from Stanford University. Please welcome Professor Yu. Okay, go ahead. Okay, do you want me to introduce the second panelist? Okay, let me introduce second panelist so that they can interact together. Okay, second panelist is Mr. Tong Park. He is a research fellow of Korean Research Institute of Vocational Education and Training. He has a Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science from the Korea University. Please welcome also Dr. Tong Park. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for introduction. I have a small question to do with Dr. Tippel. And each country has a different environment and situation, as the Professor Cho already mentioned. In Korea, most 90% of the high school graduate enter the university. And then it's very important to implement the requirement of the industry to the curriculum in the university education. And then is there any other kind of such a curriculum design that is closely related to the industry requirement in university in Germany? Can you explain that kind of the curriculum?
Yeah, we have a difference, of course, in between Korea and Germany. In Germany, more or less 60% of one generation is going through a vocational training system. We call it the dual system. And in the dual system, school on the one hand side and industry on the other hand work really strong together. But these dual structures I mentioned, although on the micro level, this kind of problem-solved learning, situated learning, learning in authentic situations, this is something we need also in the universities. And the dual structures, and at the moment more or less only 30 or 35% are going to the universities in Germany. But these dual structures are also more and more common. It's not a harmony in the universities, but it's more and more common to practice that also in universities and in higher and academic education.
And in the dual systems, what's the role of the government in the Germany?
That in vocational school, the government generally is responsible for the training regulations. We have the same training regulation in vocational training, which sometimes has a very high quality. Yeah? I would say it's the same quality as a bachelor or the master in some fields. The responsibility for the training regulations is on the national level, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, but the financing system is industrial, and the vocational schools, the curriculum is on the state level. And the universities are completely on the state level organized, yes? Just models or research projects are financed on the national level.
Okay, let me ask you, Professor Yu, before moving to the Professor Pop. What is your thought? What is your response to what is your experience that can be shared as a professor in Sungkyunkwan University? You have been, according to your resume, you had a chance to work in one of the national lab for a certain period of time, and you moved to university and has been leading one of the center, which seems to be a very cooperative research center between industry and academia, university. Can you share your experience? Is there any kind of barrier, if there is, for the enhancement of this cooperation between the industry and the academia? Can you share some of your experience?
I think my experience in the National Research Institute is about 15 years ago, and then maybe there is a lot of changes during the last 2 decades. And then I think that I had better shared my experience in the cooperation with the industries, and especially concerning on the implementation and the change and the design the new curriculum and some department and some programs. Our university has some different system, especially depending on the requirement of the industry. We launched 2 special departments, and then that is one is in undergraduate level, is Department of Semiconductor System, and the 3 or 4 subject or class is focused on the design of electric circuitry, and then also the expert from the industries, Samsung Electronics, come to university and teach 1 or 2 class each semesters. And then also the students during the vacation, and they have to attend the internship in the industry. And then obviously all the financial support came from the industry. And then also in the graduate level, there is some department of mobile systems that is also closely related to the industry. And then one different thing from the department in the undergraduate level is in the graduate level, they have some project from the industries, and by carrying out the project, the students and professors got a real, get in touch with the real problem and the real project. Then besides that kind of the department, we have some specialized track, such as information display track, and telecommunication track, and the digital media track, and photovoltaic, and the power IC, and that is specialized into several different industry area. And then in that program, only 3 to 5 class is required for that the completing that the programs. And that is very special programs in our university. And then in order to get that kind of the integration with the industry, we have to always keep in contact with industrial peoples, and the human exchange as frequently take place. And then that is a key point for the kind of the relationship between the university and the industries.
Okay, thank you. Can you move the microphone to Dr. Park?
저는
Well, I will speak in Korean, and we will have simultaneous interpretation into English. Well, I would like to briefly introduce myself. In the past government, I was in charge of the cooperation between the academia and the industry, and I am a part of the Korea Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training right now. What I would like to share with you is my feelings about the cooperation between the academia and the industry, followed up by questions for the speakers. In the case of Korea, I think the biggest issue at hand is the fact that the employability of the youth is falling. Based on the OECD indexes, the employability of our youth is below 2/3, and although the unemployment rate is not too high, the unemployment rate for the youth is quite high. I have conducted many policies and projects related to this, and if I might share that with you, there is still the death valley between the academia and the industry. During the industrialization period, we were able to successfully benchmark the dualism model of Germany. But more recently, as we are stepping into the knowledge-based society, we have not been able to catch up, and there is a gap that exists, as have been presented by Professor Cho. In the end, we need to solve the issue of the students having the lack of on-hand experience for the students. Well, I would like to address the first question to Dr. T. Pelt. In Korea, we have used the dual model of Germany thus far. But with the new advent of the knowledge-based society, I know that Germany is trying out a variety of new things, such as the Agenda 2101 model. I know that you're trying to renew your dual model right now, or so I have heard. Could you share with us the recent changes in the dual model and how you have been able to develop your dual model so that it is suitable for the knowledge-based society as well. My next question goes to Mr. Jamil. For the Dubai model, well, I believe that it's based on your growing economy, possibly based on the oil dollar. But with the recent economic difficulties, the oil prices are fluctuating. And amidst this situation, do you feel that the Dubai model is sustainable? This is a question that I know is being raised by many people. Well, the hardware is quite sufficient in Dubai. You have a lot of buildings, for example, but people criticize the lack of sufficient software. Do you believe that the Dubai model has an internal system that can effectively respond to the changing world? My last question goes to Professor Cho. You talked about the gap between the academia and the industry in the Korean society. What are some of the alternative models that you can suggest? For example, recently, the policymakers and the researchers have... The microphone has been turned off and therefore the interpretation cannot be provided. Well, what do you think about the recent talks?
Okay, there are 3 questions for each speaker. I would like to hand over the microphone first to Professor Tipper, but I would like to limit the time 30 seconds for each person because of time limit, okay? 30 seconds, please.
Okay. Yeah, the dual system is reacting to the knowledge society. 3 points. We have much more professions in the service sector now. From these 350 professions, more and more are in the service sector. Then we are including more and more students with A-levels. They prefer not to go to university, but to go in the dual system, because the dual system is very attractive. We have quality management systems in the dual system, and of course it is important to follow the higher training regulations for small and medium enterprises with the help of the chambers. The chambers play an initial role, and generally I would say we follow the recommendations of the OECD also to expand the universities in Germany and the numbers of university leavers. We have at the moment more or less 30%, and the plans for the next years are going up to 40%. That is a reaction to knowledge society.
Okay, next.
Thank you for the question. Well, the current financial crisis, we all know that will affect everywhere, and even the Gulf area and Dubai and UAE. But because of the different setup that we have in that region, in Dubai, and the support from the government, I think our model will be sustainable and will continue. And many experts, financial experts, just recently in a forum in Dubai about this crisis, assured the area that Dubai and the area will still continue to grow. Even this next year, we are projecting a growth of 5%, even with this crisis. And to the other question, the second question, that's the purpose of bringing, these international and multinational universities to provide and upskill the people and the population of that area. We might not have now the people that to keep these, the continue and what do you call it, the technology sustainable. But that's the idea behind bringing the universities and professionals from around the world. And Dubai now is not people who are living, as I said earlier, we have more than 97%, 93% of populations are expatriates. And so we have high technical and professional people are living in Dubai now, and made them made Dubai as of their house, their home. So I think we will be okay and will continue to prosper. Thank you.
The question is about how do we actually engage in university-industry cooperation. Currently, the Education Committee of Engineering Academy in Korea is not only preparing a call for the commitment for the projects, but then is assembling successful examples of university-industry cooperation around the world, within Korea and outside Korea, to give them guidance or ideas as to what can be done. But we also welcome new ideas, new dimensions of university-industry cooperation. So if you have any, just let me know, and I will include them in the guidebook. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, okay, I'd like to open the discussion to the floor, and if there's any question or some comment, please identify yourself and then, anybody? Okay, there's one person. Please hand over the microphone. Please identify yourself and then please make it very short, okay? Yeah.
Hello, my name is E. Onnuri and I'm from the New Zealand Embassy. I'm the education officer there. Firstly, Mr. Chairman and presenters, I'd like to thank you for your presentations today. My question goes to Professor Cho Peck.
Okay.
Again, thanks for your very entertaining and insightful overview of the academy and industry collaboration in Korea. Towards the end of your presentation, you mentioned the education committee of the National Academy of Engineering of Korea and the proposal pledge for the program to begin in 2009. I have two questions from this, and as a preface to my first question, I'd like to say it is important for the education, the academy, and industry to work together as a group. Who are the members of the education committee? And the second question is, what sort of substantial results do you hope to see as arising from the proposal, and how it differs from the present policies that the government has made and the existing relationships that the Korean universities and private entities have at the moment. For example, the POSCO and POSTECH relationship, the SKKU and the Samsung relationship. Thank you.
The first question is rather easy to answer. The Academy of Engineering, right now, the membership is 50% industry CEOs and 50% academy faculty members. So they are really in a way, elite group within Korea on engineering. So it's an ideally suited group to engage in university-industry cooperation. They are in the position to make decisions, to initiate new projects, if they really want it. Second question, I couldn't really hear well from here, but I think is really a big question, and I don't think we really have time to address that here. Sorry, but I will stay behind to answer your question. Thank you.
Yeah, if I add a comment for the question, for example, POSCO and POSTECH has a very unique position because it has been founded by one of the industry. But still, between the university and industry, the POSCO and POSTECH has experienced a lot of gap or misunderstanding because of simply the expectation is different, the characteristic is different, the goal is different. But over the years, we realized that the gap has been narrowing down. The reason is that I think university is changing as an industry. Industry has been asking university a relatively short-term result or short-term quick response from the research. But over the years, POSCO realized that what they really need is innovation. So I think nowadays they are increasingly appreciative of the research in university, which is basically aiming for the long-term fundamental research. So I think the prospect is very positive. I think it's very timely to discuss the real kind of collaboration between two entities, university and industry, because which is a very important element for the future development. Okay, is there any other comment or discussion? Okay, if so, I'd like to thank all the speakers and also panelists for the very interesting and provocative the discussion. Also, I'd like to thank all of you who participate in this conference, and thank you, and so long. Thank you very much. Okay.